Hey guys, so I'm back today with the video guide and kind of a bit of a demonstration of the sunflower build which I showed in the last video. It is now level 85 as a scion, and one actual problem that we no longer have is a combs chest. I used to have it and I had just over 6k life, and that's probably my chest of preference, but for now I'll just put on a belly of the beast to kind of put something there, let's just say. Ideal chest, I think, if not a combs, is just a high armor base with good life, good resist, that sort of thing. It's not much worse than a belly of the beast in terms of life because you get a lot of life from the passive tree, so flat life is kind of more useful than just life percentage. But you can kind of use whatever you want. So the build itself is RF, Incinerate with a Sire of Shards. Thus I've dubbed it the Sunflower spec. And I'll do a bit of quick gameplay while messing around and showing you what the build actually does and how it works. So you can obviously use either the standard RF, which is not RF, Incinerate, which is just red, or if you really want to, rape your eyes, then by all means get into the blue version. And it's kind of preference based. I'm really not sure which one I like more. They're kind of similar to me. But at times I like the red one more, at times I like the orange one more. In any case, we'll stick to red for the rest of this run. So once you charge up your frenzy charges from the Blood Dance boots, you get an extra 6% life regen from frenzies. Or I get 6% because I have +1 frenzy boots. But otherwise you should have at least 5 frenzies from the passive tree and from the bandit rewards. With all this entire setup, I end up having 23k DPS so far, and my skill is entirely free thanks to Elrond jewelry. -8, -8, and -8. So that is -24, and with help from a bit of the passive tree, I end up having a free Incinerate. So that makes life pretty damn comfortable. It lets you reserve your entire mana, not have to worry about EB. And just for the purpose of the demo, I will go straight to bosses, double boss, colonnade. It's probably kind of rough, but hopefully we'll get through it. DPS is really good. So yeah, I don't have to really tank anything, can stand back and shoot everything all at once, which is basically the massive perk of the build. Sire of Shards lets you shoot everything in a nova and gives you 4 additional projectiles. So paired with GMP, we end up having 9 projectiles. Now I find GMP to be pretty valuable and important. If you use LMP, for example, you can do it, it's better DPS, but I feel like you don't hit the entire screen quite as comfortably. As you can see, there's gaps, and it's just a bit less comfortable in my opinion. So I go with GMP. And as you can see, if you don't use any at all, you're really not utilizing the full staff effect, I don't think. It helps to spin around, but like I said, you're not going to be hitting everything at once, so it's kind of uncomfortable. Whereas with GMP, you're straight up hitting everything, pretty much all of the time. Paired with that, I have faster projectiles, which lets me just about cover the entire screen, sometimes even a bit off screen, as well as Incinerate quality, which is 40 more proj speed, quite important to have. As you can see, without fast projectiles, it's still pretty good range, so you can definitely go with that if you really want to, but I like having faster proj, and it's a cheap support, which helps go towards making our skill free. What else we have is Echo. Echo, huge damage boost, kind of crucial. Jesus Christ. Aside from that, we have Firepan, and that just adds a whole bunch of DPS, not on your tooltip, but penetration wise, because we do completely fire damage. Now if you really want to be a bit tankier and just survive things much easier, throw in Life Leech over Firepan. 20k plus Incinerate is still a lot, especially with the whole Nova effect. And when I go into single target mode for things like Atziri, get rid of that and put in that. So we put in Slow Approach and added Cold. It still is a free skill, and it goes completely tiny and cute, little starfish spec, and it does more damage, so then you don't have to hit the mirror ad as easily, etc. So that's my single target setup. Now if you're going to start getting into a 6 link and level 20 and higher Incinerate, you're going to need to invest more in the passive tree in terms of mana reduction. So right now I only have that, and that's enough for a 5 link with level 19. As soon as we hit level 20 and go into 6 link, you're probably going to need to start doing things like this, or this, alternatively, jewels. I do have several jewels that kind of fit the brief, but you're going to want better than these even. So you reduce mana cost of skills, and I had another one somewhere. Something like, that's not really a good example, but you know, reduced mana cost, good cast speed, good spell power, good life would be ideal. And then you should be able to fit in a 6 link or level 20 and higher Incinerate if you really want to. Right now my jewels are usually mostly just spell power and cast speed, because you don't get too much from the passive tree. It's mostly focusing on life regen. Filling out a lot of damage from the jewels is a good idea. As well as that, you can get more life and more projectile speed in jewels like this, which really do help throughout the passive tree, because we do get quite a lot of jewel slots for cheap as this build. So you can see proj speed, proj damage, life, things like that. Fire damage, spell power, spell damage with staff. Cobalt jewels are pretty easy to roll or find for this build because you can use all kinds of different rolls. So it's not terribly hard to find the right type of stuff. As far as the passive tree itself, you start off as a Scion and you try and get every bit of life regen on the tree. In the end, I end up having something like 180% life. That's without the jewels, and you can get more if you really want to. So you can make the build as tanky as you like. I end up having about 6k life with the combs. You can go to 7k if that's your, preference. That's kind of the important things to mention there. You get 1 frenzy charge, helps you for your blood rage. Aside from that, the only real important thing is charisma. I take charisma paired with Alphas Howl so that I can run Purity of Fire, Anger, and Vitality all at the same time. These two really do help you run RF quite well, and Anger is actually quite a chunky amount of DPS, so I don't want to miss out on it. At the top end I have about 23k DPS without Anger right now, 11.2, take it off, drop down to 9.4, so that is a solid 15 to 20% of your damage as Incinerate. It's quite valuable. Whereas Purity of Fire, completely necessary to run RF, that's the one thing you can't live without. And Vitality, it's, a good 2% or so almost. Pretty useful to help running RF. In the end, I have something like 20%, maybe even a bit more life regen if you factor in the frenzy charges. So that does negate RF, and you need pretty much every bit of it to be able to run RF. And on top of that, you pop some ruby flasks. That makes the RF degen go down slower. Without frenzy charges right now, I do definitely degen. With a ruby flask, I've got up to 90%, and that helps me regen. But it's a lot better when you have the frenzy charges up as well. One thing to note about RF, you can let it tick down if you want it to take off, or just use a burn flask to take it off, but it won't ever kill you. It'll only go back down to 1 and then top you straight back up. For maps that are bad for RF, you can definitely not use it and then just run around with massive amounts of regen, and it actually becomes a really tanky build. You still have plenty of Incinerate DPS to actually clear most things, so it's not too big a deal if you just want to be a bit tankier. As for the gear itself, we've already shown the stuff. It's pretty amazing. A good roll on it will help because it goes from 60 to 100 proj damage, and that is a good chunk of your damage for the entire build. Alphas Howl, like I said, you want your Anger, your Purity of Fire, and your Vitality in there. They will gain a slight benefit. Your chest slot, like I said, I think a Combs is probably your best bet. It does stress your other gem slots a bit because you lose 6 potential gem slots. Otherwise, I think a good chest, just armor chest, should be nice. Something along the lines of this, but with more life. Alternatively, you could go a lot of routes. Something like a Restless Ward would be pretty fun. Help you just your playstyle and comfortable. Become pretty comfortable. You could go with the Dresser's Defiance, help you keep up endurance charges, give you some onslaught almost all of the time, and make you so you don't have to use Enduring Cry as much. Anyway, it's pretty open, up to you. up to Interpretation. Blood Dance, I feel like they are very useful in this build. It helps buffer out a lot of your regen. You of course won't have frenzy charges all of the time because certain situations you won't be killing ads that much. But frenzy, slapping things with your stuff helps a little bit. It's pretty last resort and I don't like to do it except for things like Incinerate when you have time to do it. Everything else is pretty much open to interpretation. High life and resist gloves. High life, resist belt. You need Elrion rings if you want to go the way I go, which is minus mana cost. So basically try and get a -8, augment it, regal it, and then fill out the life. I got a pretty good regal on this one with cast speed. That is ideal, but I pretty much use whatever I get. This is probably my worst one. Doesn't bother me too much. I got plenty of stats everywhere else. It's kind of hard to make better ones unless you go the full multi-mod route, or just keep buying them, keep auging them, keep regaling them, or just buy well-made ones. That's kind of up to you. That's about all I need to mention on the build. 6th link, I would either go faster casting, life leech, or empower. That is sort of open to interpretation. I haven't tried it yet, but I think the highest DPS bet would be faster casting, followed by empower, and life leech if you want to be more survivable. Not much else to mention. I leveled with Incinerate. It was pretty comfortable, pretty easy, as it always is, as you all know it should be. I found this is actually one of the most fun Incinerate builds I've played recently because the usual Incinerate just doesn't do it for me anymore. I don't know why that is, but just shooting that in certain directions, I'm a bit bored with it, you know? Whereas going all over the place, oh man, it's satisfying clearing the entire screen. Anyway, this has been the Sunflower build. I think Cyan is the best bet for it. And it's quite a lot of fun. Get your RF on, have a go. One other thing I will mention, I did try and spec this without RF, going through top side of the tree and just focusing on pure damage. Ended up being worse, so RF variant is quite a bit more damage and I do recommend it. But it does require a certain playstyle and change your thinking of how you play it. A bit more fast paced, a bit more flask usage, all that sort of good stuff. Hope you guys have fun in the 1 month, and I'll see you next time.